The sea whispered like an ancient conspirator against the granite walls of Storm's End, its murmurs threading through arrow slits and shuttered alcoves until they mingled with the restless breaths of men who had not yet decided whether to hope or to despair. Dawn had barely lifted its pallid eyelid when Stannis Baratheon took the ramparts, a lone figure in a rough-woven cloak, his jaw set against the salt-bitter wind that combed the black stubble at his cheeks. Below, the courtyard seethed sergeants barking orders in gruff half-murmurs, grooms leading mounts still drowsy from their stalls, and the clang of mail as ranks assembled only to break again like waves upon a reef. Yet in that moment, nothing stirred Stannis so much as the slow bloom of pale light upon the horizon, as though the world itself were unsure whether to grant him a dawn. Behind him, soft-soled footsteps halted. Davos Seaworth bowed his salt-splotched head, fingers lingering at the pouch that held his finger bones, charm and penance in equal measure. "My lord," he said with the cautious quiet of a man who has learned the tone of an unyielding master. "The cooks have laid breakfast in the hall. Bread still warm. Shall I summon?" "Not yet." Stannis's voice cut like flint. "I'll break bread when there's bread left to my house to break it with." "How many men?" 6,000 sworn. Another 1,000 camped half a mile along the Rosewood Road. Lord Meadows's levies, delayed by the rains. Stannis's lips flattened, neither in approval nor anger. "And Renly?" "He arrived past the second watch. A dozen riders only, banners furled. He would see you in the Solar, privately." "Of course he would," Stannis muttered, but he turned away from the sunrise at last, steel-shod boots kissing stone as he strode back into the castle's cold embrace. The torches guttered in the corridor, throwing half-light upon tapestries that Robert had once hung. Stags crowned in gold thread, rampant and unassailable. Now the fabric frayed at the edges, and moths had chewed tiny kingdoms of their own across the woven fields. Renly waited beside the hearth, fire licking his green velvet doublet with orange tongues of warmth. He looked almost boyish beneath his trimmed beard, though his eyes held the gleam of a gambler who believes every card draws fortune nearer. "Brother," he greeted, raising a goblet whose rim was crusted with winter honey. "I thought to toast your sunrise." "Toast my patience first," Stannis replied. He did not sit. "You come unannounced, with a handful of knights, as though this were a tourney rather than a war."
Renly's grin bent, sly.
"Wars go poorly without alliances, and alliances are born of trust. I trusted that you would not have me waylaid between your gates." Stannis's face hardened into granite. "A lord's welcome does not extend to those who name themselves kings against him." "Kings?" Renly echoed, rolling the word across his tongue. "Tomes claim crowns grow heavy, but I find mine rather light, made so by loyalty freely given, not grudgingly scraped together." Stannis did not bristle. He cracked no retort. Instead, he studied the younger man with eyes that weighed more than scales. At length he said, "Tell me what you propose, Renly, but speak plain. I am a soldier, not a mummer." Renly sipped, savoring the honey's bite. "Plainly, then, Storm's End cannot feed 6,000 mouths through winter, let alone mine and yours together. Yet, together we hold near 20,000 blades when my host arrives. March with me, present a Baratheon front to King's Landing. Cersei's whelp sits a throne he has no right to. The realm will flock to banners black of stag if they see us side by side." Silence held court. Only the crackle of the hearth and the gull-distant shriek of surf far below spoke. Stannis's gaze drifted to the map spread upon the table, Westeros drawn in ochre and smoke, roads like veins feeding the red-ink heart of King's Landing. His gauntlet finger traced a line from Storm's End, northward past the Windwater, through the Kingswood's ragged emerald, to the city's great black moat on the page. "I will not call you king," he said at last, voice low as thunder beyond hills. "Yet neither will I see a bastard in Robert's seat while Baratheon blood still beats in honest hearts. You want my army. Very well, ride beneath my standard. The crowned stag, black on gold, not your flowery green conceit." Renly smiled, slow and luminous. "We might share a field before we share a crown. Let the realm see us brothers first. Kings may be sorted after. Words, Stannis began, but the rest drowned, caught behind teeth unwilling to gnaw old grudges. In the hearthlight, their shadows danced together upon the stone. Two stags poised in wary congress, antlers interlaced where flame met wall. An hour later, the courtyard roared alive. Renly's knights, rainbow guard cloaks streaking color against Storm's End's gray, clapped shoulders with Stannis' hardened veterans. Some jested of tourney days at Bitterbridge. Others eyed each other with predator caution, yet commonplace was the shared sense that some vast tide had turned. Grooms led warhorses to troughs, the beasts blowing plumes of steam while armorers hammered rivets firm. Bannerets hoisted poles where the crown stag snapped in the sea gale, and, beside it, Renly's young heart of summer green unfurled, as though daring winter's edge to stifle growth. By midday, the castle's kitchens bellowed smoke. Onion broth mingled with rich stewed venison. Renly's larder wagons had come laden with delicacies from Highgarden orchards and the bounty of the Reach. For a moment, the garrison felt less like soldiers and more like men again, chewing bread crusts still warm against chilled fingers, listening to minstrels dare a song or two beneath the battlements. Yet even as laughter bubbled, Stannis stalked among them, counting arrows, scowling at slack pacing, calling lancers back to drills until their thighs quivered. War could not be sweetened with honeyed pears. In a narrow gallery above the armory, Maester Cressen's old rookery had been cleared for a war council. Lords stood elbow to elbow, copper-haired Lord Caron with his nightingale pin, dark-bearded Lord Estermont, whose age-spotted hands shook until wrapped around a wine cup, Brienne of Tarth, tall as watered oak, silent but for the rasp of her gauntlet upon sword belt, Ser Loras Tyrell bright as new coin, his eyes two green flames when they lingered on Renly's shoulder. Davos Seaworth hovered at the fringe, neither lord nor knave, taking measure of pride and fear as though they were cargo to be taxed. Stannis spoke little. The map told more than tongues could. Mace Tyrell held Highgarden secure. Red-handed Lord Roose Bolton marshaled the north in Robb Stark's name. Balon Greyjoy's silence upon the Iron Islands curled ominous as a closed fist. But the road to King's Landing, there lay the realm's throat. Renly outlined supply trains from Bitterbridge, fords across the Blackwater Rush, the loyalty of House Rowan and House Tarley. Stannis corrected only when numbers strayed too near optimism. At dusk, an autumn storm clothed the castle in sheeting rain. Thunder growled like a memory of Robert's laughter, and lanterns lined the keep's corridors, trembling in yellow chains. Renly found his brother again upon the ramparts, cloak plastered to his shoulders, rain making rivulets down the hard angles of his face. "We ride 2 dawns hence," Stannis said. "The tides favor our galleys to drift along the coast and meet us upriver, but steel favors feet. If gold cloaks close the gates, we lay siege." Renly tilted his head, rain streaking his beard. "We have power in numbers. Fear will open gates before hunger does. People remember Robert and they loved him. We look like Robert when we stand together." His hand rose, palm outward, a gesture as peaceable as a prayer. Stannis did not take it. "Robert's memory is song and ale. We are stone and iron. Remember that." Beyond them, lightning burned the sea white, and for an instant they stood etched upon the sky. 2 silhouettes, brothers perhaps, but humans first, frail against the black immensity that neither crown nor blade could master. The procession wound from Storm's End like a mailed serpent. Rain-heavy clouds fled east with the wind, leaving the world washed and glittering. Lines of ox-drawn wagons creaked over muddied ruts, each wrapped in canvas bearing Renly's sun-chained hart or Stannis' crowned stag. Infantry trudged knee-deep in muck, shields strapped upon backs glimmering with damp. Cavalry rode the flanks, hooves churning earth into cold brown froth. Above it all, banners streamed, green, gold, black, braiding in the breeze like warriors' fates already mingled. Davos rode near the vanguard, his hood drawn low. He watched the men's faces, their eyes set forward yet often skittering toward one another, weighing the worth of comrades newly named by treaty rather than by childhood bond. He wondered if mutiny hid in any of those eyes. Yet what he saw instead was a quiet, almost clandestine hope, one that whispered of a realm secured, of taxes spent on cellars rather than siege weapons, of children sleeping through nights without wolf drums or Lannister trumpets. Behind, in the royal carriage, Renly shared jests with Lady Brienne. The maiden knight, stiff in her azure cuirass, blushed at each jest but answered with blunt wisdom of holdfasts and sword forms. Renly listened, brightening each time her voice broke from shyness into conviction. They spoke also of Loras, of tourneys yet to come, and each time Renly's laugh spilled into the road, archers stole glances as though blessed by music. Stannis kept no carriage. He rode a plain brown courser, armor dark as river stone, Davos's sons flanking him, Mathos with the company of archers, Devon tending his lord's spare mount. The king's jaw seemed hewn by the same masons who had cut Storm's End's walls. Only once did he pause, where the road climbed a bluff above the ocean. There, through salt mist, he glimpsed Dragonstone's jagged silhouette far to the north, its towers like dragon's teeth ripping the horizon. His eye hardened at memory of Melisandre's red-haired prophecy, of shadows she claimed as truth incarnate. He turned away. This war would be won by hands of flesh and iron, not smoke and sorcerous whispers. On the 8th night, they camped beneath the skeletal limbs of the Kingswood. Fires dotted the darkness, bright islands amid trunks twisted like dying men. Minstrels plucked looped cords while sentries walked circuits through rustling underbrush. Renly's pavilion bloomed with gold lamplight. Inside, Tyrell wines perfumed the air, and laughter rang as full and unguarded as harvest bells. Outside, Stannis dined upon hare and onions with Davos and Lord Estermont. All business, each swallow measured between reports of scouts who'd glimpsed Lannister outriders near Sow's Horn. It was at such a fire that Ser Courtenay Penrose, a ghost from Storm's End's melancholy, approached with tidings of the city. "The small folk mutter of starvation," he said, voice low. "The gold cloaks have tripled taxes upon fishmongers and millers. The September of Baelor sees lines of beggars longer than the steppes." His eyes flickered with pity, then steeled. "They'll welcome any liberator who breaks their chains." Stannis nodded. "Chains may be broken, but law must bind, else we trade one tyranny for another." Yet inwardly he felt the note of leverage, suffering open doors diplomacy could not. 2 nights later, the vanguard sighted the walls of Duskendale, its harbor bristling with merchant cogs flying banners white for truce. Lord Darklyn, silver-bearded and stooped, knelt before both kings in the marketplace. "My hearth is yours," he declared, voice trembling less from age than relief. "We watched the crown's ravens blacken our skies with taxes. My folk fear Lannister justice as they fear plague. Bring your armies through, freely, and I swear ships, grain, and iron for your cause." It was the first of many oaths along the march. Hill forts opened gates at nightfall. River lords sent barges heaped with barley and smoked fish. Hedge knights donned fresh tabards, swearing swords for the price of Baratheon honor. Each victory of word, Renly celebrated. Each Stannis recorded, his parchment maps annotated with quill-scratched sigils. Word preceded them to the Blackwater. The city, trapped between Golden Lion and Gathering Stag, buzzed with rumor. Within the Red Keep, Cersei's council argued behind closed doors while the Iron Throne sat heavy beneath Joffrey's thin frame. Whisperers spoke of the city watch divided, half loyal to the crown, half greased by Tyrell coin. At the docks, dockside priests of the Red God preached judgment in tongues of fire, while septons urged peace and prayers for King Robert's soul. The Baratheon host struck camp upon a ridge south of the river, its torches draping the night like a net of starlight. The Blackwater glimmered below, sluggish and sullen. King's Landing's gates, torchlit and bristling with spear points, seemed fragile against the immensity of men and iron arrayed beyond bowshot. At dawn, pennons whipped along the ramparts. The lion still roared, red upon gold, yet the wind tore its edges ragged. In the command tent, a Spartan canvas for Stannis, though Renly's silks had been fastened at one end, they drafted their challenge. Ravens bore parchment sealed with twin stags. In the names of Stannis Baratheon, firstborn of Lord Steffan, and Renly Baratheon, Lord of Storm's End, rightful blood of King Robert, we demand entry and surrender of the pretender Joffrey Baratheon, born of incest and treason. Yield the Iron Throne, or face the united wrath of House Baratheon and those sworn true to the realm. The ravens launched at first light, wings rasping the cold air. While they flew, engineers erected siege towers, catapults, and spoked mantlets. Yet morale within the camp held curious calm. Men sharpened pikes while humming tavern tunes. Cooks stirred kettles scented with river mint. They believed the city would capitulate. How could it not, when 2 kings stood at its gates rather than 5 linked in fratricide? But cities, like hearts, sometimes cling to fear even when hope pounds upon their doors. Joffrey's response came nailed to a spear, flung from the gatehouse. A single parchment, words scrawled in childish fury. Traitors shall taste the swords of lion and king alike. Come and die. Beneath, a wax seal pressed crooked, the stag that Robert had once worn, but circled by a lion's mane. Renly laughed when it was read aloud. He cannot even choose a single beast for his banner. Yet Stannis' face darkened, eyes narrowing like slits through which war's fire already blazed. So be it, he said. We shall feed the river with their treachery. Throughout that day, both camps wriggled like armies of ants beneath looming clouds. Scouts reported Sellswords arriving by night along the Gold Road, Ser Gregor Clegane among them, leading armored riders whose black swords drank moonlight. Davos saw the tension in Serf's shoulders, heard prayers whispered to every god whose name might stir pity. Yet still there was something electric in the air, as though the lightning of victory waited just beyond a scent these men could nearly smell. That night, the wind shifted. It blew from the north, across the city, carrying with it the faint, fetid aroma of chamber pots and charred tallow. But hidden within that odor, Davos fancied he tasted fear. Fires burned high upon the walls, silhouettes pacing. In the Baratheon camp, sentries wet finger to wind, noting the change. And somewhere in the hush before dawn, a slender craft, painted to the color of mud, slid downriver bearing a smuggler's secret, Davos's own son Mathos guiding the tiller. They slipped past unmanned towers, under the bridge of boats where guards dozed wine-sodden, until they reached a sloping beach of river silt. There they buried casks of river water and sacks of food. Charity for the small folk, Davos said, but also a sign. Salvation wears no lion's mane. As the sky paled, horns blared, brass for Renly's host, iron-throated for Stannis's. Siege towers groaned forward beneath tar-drenched hides, wheels churning mud. Catapults flexed like colossal beasts, hurling stones that shrieked as they tore air. On the walls, arrows fell in black hail. Flames leapt where pitchpots burst. Thick smoke roiled, choking the dawn. Renly rode beneath a standard swaying with gold antlers. His surcoat glimmered emerald, yet his eyes darted, seeing each man felled as though they were seeds spilled from a pouch. He shouted encouragement to archers, wheeled to catch a fallen knight's reins. To men he was brightness incarnate, the summer sun refusing winter. At his heel, Loras Tyrell cut down a Lannister outrider who dared the no-man's land, plume twirling like a comet. Stannis climbed a siege tower's inner ladder, boots hammering oak. When the ramp crashed against battlements, he surged across first, long sword carving a path through spearmen who quailed to find death so early. Lightning flared, whether skyborn or steelborn none could say, and for a breath, those who watched from below saw a crowned stag painted in sparks upon the smoke. Yet the city did not break that day. Ser Mandon Moore led the Kingsguard with white-clad fury. Doggett's crossbowmen rained quarrels from murder holes. Wildfire jars lobbed from hidden slings ignited siege towers in leaping green ghosts that clawed men into ash. By dusk, both armies pulled back, and the land between walls and ridge was strewn with twisted timber, scorched corpses, and broken shields. In the war council that night, Renly's voice cracked with sorrow for the dead, but Stannis's rang iron. "Tomorrow we breach," he said. "We have men upon the north gate. Gold cloaks their waver. Davos, take them coin and words. Promise justice when we sit the throne. Promise bread. Promise mercy. He glanced at his brother. Robert's mercy. Renly inclined his head, midnight lantern casting soft lines across his face. Mercy, yes, but also haste. The longer we linger, the more foes rally. There are rumors of Tywin Lannister marching from Harrenhal. Stannis spat. Let him march. We'll take the city before his shadow darkens the road. Yet shadows sometimes move faster than feet. Far across the Kingswood, riders spurred hellbent, crimson cloaks whipping in moonlight, carrying tidings of an army half as large as the sky and twice as hungry. And behind them, unseen by man or god, another shadow crept, quieter but crueler. The whisper of Melisandre's fire, the memory of a smoke-borne assassin and a king who had once listened. Davos left that night with a purse heavy as guilt. He rode cloaked and alone, slipping across the river by moon-dappled shallows, seeking the city watch commander whose fear might yet be bribed into hope. As hooves splashed black water, he looked back. The Baratheon encampment burned torches like stars scattered upon earth. Above, the real heavens answered with their own distant lights, cold, impassive, eternal. He wondered which fires would remain when dawn came. And dawn would come, blood-tinted, horn-loud, unforgiving. It would come with blades singing at stone, with brothers carving paths through walls that had stood since Aegon's wrath burned dragons into legend. It would come with choices carved deeper than sword-slashed flesh, choices that would bind or rend the kingdom more surely than any crown. For now, the night held its breath. Somewhere in the stillness, a child in flea bottom dreamt of bread. A queen slept with a dagger beneath her pillow. A boy-king practiced cruelty. On stray cats, and on a ridgeline overlooking river and city and the fragile hopes of thousands, two brothers who had never learned tenderness plotted the shape of the dawn they would demand the world to bear. Davos Seaworth coaxed his gelding through the last stretch of reeds and mud, the tethered hush of the Blackwater wrapping horse and rider in its damp embrace. Candlelight winked atop the city's ramparts, a broken chain of glow that reminded him of a ship's lantern line severed midstorm. The nearer walls stank of grime, the farther ones of fear. When his boots met stone at a half-hidden sallyport, the iron door before him rasped open just far enough to reveal a single eye hard, suspicious, and rimmed by sleepless red. A signal, the watcher hissed. Davos drew the purse from beneath his cloak and tilted it. Silver stags spilled into his palm. He let them catch what little moonlight filtered through cloud, then let them fall back with a muted clink. The door yawned wider. Words first, Davos said, stepping into the narrow passage. Coin after. The man who emerged wore the black and yellow cloak of the city watch, yet the sigil stitched above his heart had been hurriedly unpicked. Ser Jacelyn Bywater waits in the old armory, he muttered. Best be swift. Gold cloaks true to the queen work, the midnight round on this stretch come the bell. Davos followed, hand never straying far from the hilt of the short sword at his belt. More habit than faith in its comfort. Whetstone Tunnel gave way to a cramped stair twisting upward, echoing with the drip of leaking aqueducts above. They surfaced in a ruin of a tower room. Racks of rusted helms, crates whose lids had warped, and a round oak table ringed by men whose faces were as wary as half-drawn blades. Ser Jacelyn rose, tall, gaunt, mustache bristling as though each hair had sworn to stand siege. Smuggler or no, you wear a king's sigil, he said. Speak. Davos placed the purse upon the table. A hush fell when the coins spilled, bronze flame from a single tallow candle pooling in their ridges. Stannis Baratheon offers honest coin now, he said, and honest order after. Break the gates at next dawn's first horn. Stand aside when our vanguard pushes through. No sack, no slaughter of small folk. You've my lord's word. The queen speaks of traitors, growled a burly captain near the rear. Says Renly dallies with Tyrells, that Stannis courts black arts. Davos met the man's stare. The queen says many things, yet your purses remain light and your bellies lighter. How many gold cloaks are paid in copper these days? A murmur pealed through the chamber. Resentment had a smell all its own, and Davos caught it now like bilge beneath sweet perfume. Ser Jacelyn raised a gloved palm. The coin is welcome, but oaths bind even hungry men. The Watch swore to protect the city and its king. And so you shall, Davos replied, voice low. Protect the city. From a crown born by incest and guarded by cruelty. Protect the realm. From wildfire meant to drown us all in green flame should we breach these walls. Tell me, Captain, does serving a boy who skins cats for sport honor the Watch? Murmurs sharpened to knives. Some eyes fell, others burned brighter. Jacelin's jaw clenched. We open the old gate, he said at last. That alone. Once the Baratheon host gains Market Square, the streets will decide the rest. It will suffice. Davos swept the purse toward the captain, but he kept one coin between finger and thumb, turning its stag effigy toward the candlelight. Leave the small folk unharmed, he added, or tomorrow's silver will dress your graves. Dawn bled pale over the ridge, the horizon a bruise of violet where earth and sky wrestled for light. Beneath crane banners damp with dew, Stannis inspected the forward formations. Pike blocks from Estermont lined behind greatwood mantlets, shield walls of Cairn men-at-arms, Brienne's Tarthians towering in azure ranks. Renly's Rainbow Guard took the fore, sworn to ride at the first trumpet. Ser Loras in forest green enamel, Ser Emincuy in saffron and scarlet, Brienne herself the glint of fresh snow on steel. Renly trotted past them astride the palomino he named Moonrise, laughter weaving through the hush like a lute taught to sing war songs. Stannis spoke scarcely a word. Yet when he passed beneath the streaming crown stag, even veterans who had fought the Greyjoys felt their backs straighten. Here was a man who did not weave banners from charisma. He hammered them from iron necessity. First horn, banners dipped. All eyes turned to the city. Nothing. No signal flare, no creak of gates. Second horn. Siege towers shoved forward like slumbering beasts prodded awake. Oxen groaned. Pulleys groaned louder. In the north, a gull cried, unheeded. Between horns and hush rode Renly. He fell into step beside Stannis. No jape on his lips now. Your Sellsword envoys? He asked. They'll answer. Stannis's gaze never left the walls. The third horn began its wail, and mid-note it choked, drowned in a thunder not wrought by men. From the city's old gate unspooled a grinding groan, as though King Maegor's own ghost shouldered the timbers aside. Portcullis teeth lifted, chains rattled. A yawning darkness appeared, framing the narrow lane beyond. A heartbeat of stunned quiet. Then Stannis's gauntlet slashed downward. Drums thundered, hooves answered, and the ground itself seemed to rise and rush toward the city. Renly's knights hit the gate first. Iron-shod hooves shattered puddles into silver shards. Through the archway they plunged, banners snapping overhead like lightning caught in cloth. Pike blocks followed, torrent replacing torrent, until the old gate's throat choked on men and metal. Within, Market Square yawned wide, its cobbles already glossed with dawn drizzle. Gold cloaks ringed the plaza in uncertain ranks, some scrabbling to form shield walls, others dropping spears and melting back into alley shadows. A scattering of small folk huddled beneath awnings, eyes raw with sleepless dread. When the first Baratheon banner broke into view, a boy no older than 12 let out a half-strangled cheer. It was enough. The sound bred echoes. Echoes swelled into a roar, and soon the plaza rang with guttural relief. Renly reined in, voice flaring across the din in Robert's name. Stand aside. We come for tyrants, not for you. Some city watchmen hesitated, glancing to their captains. But the captains saw the flood yet to crest, and fear proved heavier than oath. Half the gold cloaks grounded spears. The others broke outright, scattering like leaves before a gale. Davos slipped in from the sally port behind the main surge. He found Bywater amid chaos, sword raised more in command than bloodlust. Hold the men at River Row, the smuggler yelled. Choke the streets leading to the September. We need no fighting among the shrines. Bywater's salute was terse, but his eyes carried a flicker of that fragile thing Davos had bargained for. Belief that tomorrow might yet dawn on a freer city. High atop Maegor's holdfast, Cersei Lannister's knuckles blanched on the windowsill. From here she saw only the smoke already rising from the street of silk and the dark ribbon of men surging past the gate of the gods. Bells tolled, confused, clanging half notes of alarm while ravens wheeled frantic above the chimneys. "They outnumber us 2-1, reported Ser Boros Blunt, tugging White Cloak tight about his bulk. "Ser Mandon holds the Red Keep steps but cannot promise the yard if their siege ladders come." "And my son?" Cersei demanded, molars grinding. "The king?" Blunt hesitated. "He has taken bow and crossbow to the ramparts. Refuses escort." A hiss escaped her. Somewhere beneath that tousled blonde head beat the seed of Jaime's recklessness, but none of Jaime's skill. "Fetch Tyrion," she snapped. "Tell him the Hand's Council is wanted more than ever." Yet Tyrion arrived before the messenger departed, cheeks flushed from half-sprinted corridors. "Sister," he huffed, "your bells ring a sweeter welcome than any dwarf might wish. They break more glass, at least." Cersei rounded on him. "Have you hidden your wildfire, little brother? Or will we roast beside your clever caches?" Tyrion dabbed sweat from brow. "The alchemists assure me the bulk resides beneath the city rather than the keep, meant for river defense. I advised against such stockpiling, as you know." A growl of frustration. She pivoted back to the window. On the distant ridge, she saw another banner slip into view. A crowned stag beneath a field of emerald. The sight cut her like cold iron. "They mean to parade their brotherhood before the city," she spat. "Fools will love them for it." Tyrion's mismatched gaze followed hers. "Love is as sharp as fear," he murmured, "but less reliable. We must convince this horde the keep will stand unbroken." "How?" "By appearing unbreakable." His voice softened, calculating. "Give me leave to treat with Stannis. A parley, ostensibly to spare the small folk. I will gauge his supply lines, his tempers, perhaps sow doubt between the brothers." "Stannis has no doubt," Cersei whispered as if to herself, "but he may yet have pride." She turned, eyes narrowing. "Go then. But if you fail, I shall feed your wild little Sellsword girl to Ser Island." Tyrion bowed with a sardonic flourish. "My thanks for the incentive." Stannis did not spare the dwarf a seat. Within the commandeered brewhouse that served now as forward command, the king stood over a trestle table sticky with spilled ale and marked by hastily inked street plans. Renly lounged nearby, fingers idly tracing a mug's rim as though the steam rising from its cider warmed the very battle's chill. Davos occupied the shadow behind Stannis's right shoulder. Brienne guarded the door, sword unsheathed. Tyrion swept off his helm, hair damp from exertion. "The Lady Regent extends offer of truce," he began, smoothing breath. "Evacuate small folk north across the Blackwater. Permit grain convoys through until negotiation may." Stannis's gauntlet slammed the table, rattling tankards. "Negotiation has ended," he said. "The gate sits open. The city bleeds. Bring me Joffrey in chains and your sister in fetters. Then we shall speak of grain." Renly raised a hand, palm outward. "Brother Stannis, perhaps we allow the hand his say. A single hour's delay costs little and might spare lives." "Lives are spared by swift victory," Stannis countered. Tyrion's eyes flicked between them, reading volumes in the thin air. "Swift for whom, Majesty?" He asked Renly, letting irony brush the title. "Your Reach lords may find Parley convenient while Tywin Lannister marches with 30,000. Delay favors a lion." Stannis's gaze froze, ice trapping fire. "Tywin is 4 days west at the Mander Ford," he said. "We have scouts." "Scouts who missed the vanguard already across the Blackwater rush?" Tyrion let the question hang like a noose. Renly's smile faded. Stannis's fist eased from the table edge. Davos stepped forward. "If Lord Tywin approaches," he said, "our siege becomes defense. Best we claim the city entire before his banners in sight." Stannis studied the dwarf. "Is this warning truth or ploy?" Tyrion shrugged. "Truth can serve ploy and still be truth. Consider also, every hour we speak, alchemists below the city rack catapults with wildfire. They mean to set the river ablaze." Renly straightened. They would burn their own city? They would burn half the realm to save a throne, Tyrion answered softly. Beware making them desperate. For the first time, uncertainty flickered behind Stannis' sternum. Davos saw it in the pinch between his brows. Yet the king's voice remained iron. Tell your queen, he said. We advance by dusk. If she lights the river, she lights her own pyre. Tyrion bowed. I will bear the message. Pray your men can swim green flame. As the dwarf departed, Renly exhaled. He's clever. Too clever. He turned to Stannis. But perhaps we press sooner, before wildfire can be staged. Stannis nodded. Form your knights. We strike the mud gate this afternoon. Davos signal the galleys. They will sweep the river, break any floating trebuchets the alchemists have rigged. And what of Tywin? Renly asked. If he draws near, we answer. One battle or two, the stag will stand. A half smile, rueful, tugged Renly's mouth. We stand. But when the keep falls, whose crown shall the stag bear? Stannis' silence weighed heavier than the question. He turned away, plates of male whispering. When the keep falls, he said, the realm will crown justice. See to your men. Hours later, Davos stood upon the forecastle of the Black Betha, sea spray mingling with river mist as the galley cut upriver on a brisk tide. Around him, an armada of Stormlander ships advanced in triangular formation, ocean-bred hulls threading the Blackwater like hounds through briar. He signaled with lantern flashes. Port oars draw, starboard hold, veer to intercept the barge ahead. The barge broke water lazily, its deck piled with clay pots sealed in green wax, the alchemist's deadly cargo. Crossbowmen on Betha's prow loosed corals. Lines hissed through air and thudded into wooden gunnels. Winches cranked. The barge careened toward the galley like a drunk seeking embrace. Deckhands doused the clay pots with river water, snuffing fuse work before flame-kissed pitch. Elsewhere, not every barge was intercepted in time. Farther upriver, a deafening roar cleaved the afternoon. Emerald conflagration erupted skyward, a pillar of burning glass. Shockwaves slapped Betha's hull. Men flung arms over faces as shards of witchfire hissed into the river, seething upon contact, boiling water to steam. Gods be good, muttered Davos, heart hammering. The city wall above them flickered green, as though its stone veins pulsed with sorcery. But smoke drifted eastward on the wind, not toward the Baratheon camps. Some of the city itself burned where misfired pots had shattered among slums. Screams rose, distant yet harrowing. Davos spat brine. So much for sparing folk. He turned to the signal mast, flags whipping wild. Advance! Scuttle every barge. Starboard archers. Loose on the wall crews. From towers, Lannister scorpions answered, bolts the size of saplings clattering off Betha's prow. But Stormland's archers found their mark with arrow and firepot alike. Soon defenders ducked behind parapets slick with blood and fear. In the chaos, Davos glimpsed a miracle. Within the city docks, workers in gold cloaks began hacking mooring ropes of half-loaded wildfire ships, shoving them adrift. Saboteurs? Or patriots? Smoke cloaked their faces. All alike were silhouettes against hell's dawn. He prayed silently they might live to see it. The mud gate buckled beneath a battering ram carved in the likeness of a stag's crowned head. With each slam, splinters stung the air. With each return swing, men heaved and roared, sweat flying like rain opposed to rain. Above, defenders hurled kettles of boiling oil, but shields interlocked formed a turtle shell that sloughed death. When, at last, a hinge screamed surrender, the ram punched through. Splinters became shards. Shards became door-wide maw. Renly led the charge, cloak streaming, voice lifting like a war horn gilded in song. Beside him thundered Brienne, sword flashing silver arcs. Through shattered portal they rode into the fish market, bisected by a narrow canal whose stagnant filth sluiced about stone piers. Lannister halberdiers awaited, but morale fractured like pottery when they saw a summer king astride shining destrier. Lines faltered, folded. The fish market surrendered in minutes. Stannis entered on foot, boots sliding in slime dark as old wine. He saw prisoners disarmed, loot untouched, women and children corralled gently toward the sept steps where healers waited. Discipline, this mattered. A city seized, not raped. He clapped a mailed hand on Ser Courtenay Penrose's shoulder. Hold these wards. Secure the docks. Blockade the hill. From the north quarter, horns shrieked. 3 quick blasts. Tyrell banners sighted on the ramparts. Renly turned to their signal captain, confusion sliding toward alarm. Loras holds the Apple Gate. Why call alarm? Before answer came, a ripple of screams cascaded down Visigna's hill. Stannis's gaze jerked upward. From the direction of the Alchemist's Guildhall, a second column of wildfire erupted. This one smaller yet closer, its emerald flame devouring 2 nearby rowhouses. The blast tipped masonry like children's blocks. Debris plummeted onto fleeing crowds. Brienne spurred toward the chaos, blue mantle billowing. Renly after her, but Stannis's hand snared his reins. To the Red Keep, he barked. Wildfire cannot burn stone from within. If we take the keep, the alchemists lose means to wage this fire. Renly hesitated, torn between smoke-choked small folk and a fortress where his hated nephew still ruled. But needs gravity won. Flanked by a wedge of Stormlander guards, they forged toward the Hill of Aegon. Streets constricted into switchback stairways. Sweat-slick stone lined by hovels and tailor shops shuddered beneath broads of faith and crown. Archers fired from windows above. Royalists perched on rooftops hurled chamber pots filled with pitch. Yet Baratheon spears advanced relentlessly, shields overlapping to blunt the worst. Near the top, the street of the sisters widened, revealing the Red Keep's outer barbican. A yawning arch flanked by towers whose arrow loops spat death. It was there that Ser Mandon Moore awaited, white cloak darkened by soot. Around him the remnants of the Kingsguard formed ragged line. At their center stood King Joffrey, diadem askew, cheeks streaked where tears fought soot. In his trembling hands, a crossbow loaded and cocked. Stannis halted 10 paces distant. "Surrender the boy, Ser Moore," he called, voice carrying across the blood-slick stones. "Spare your men their graves."
Ser Mandon lifted visor Hafqua.
"The Kingsguard does not yield." Renly nudged forward. "Then let the coward king yield. Joffrey, there's no victory here. Step aside and live to see an honest court judge your claim." Joffrey's answer was a trembling bolt released too early. It clattered off Stannis's pauldron, nicking only paint. Silence followed, shocked, heedless silence. Renly edged his horse, raising one gloved hand. "Stannis!" But the elder's patience had run its thin tether. He barked a command. Crossbowmen lifted. Ser Mandon dropped visor and charged. The hedge of conflict that followed was too swift for songs. Moore's blade flashed toward Renly's throat, but Brienne caught it on her own, sparks fountaining. Behind them, Davos Seaworth arrived by alley sprawl, breath ragged, dove to pull a small girl from the melee path. The Kingsguard broke like ice under hammer. White cloaks stained crimson, they fell. Only Ser Mandon pressed on, dancing steel upon enchanted snow. Yet Stannis, stalking forward, parried with a fury tempered by iron restraint. When Moore overextended, Stannis's long sword sheared beneath his guard, sliding across gorget seam. White cloak sagged as night and blood alike spattered the stones. Joffrey shrieked. He backed into the arms of a Red Keep squire, eyes wild with disbelief. Renly dismounted, boots splashing in gore, and strode toward the boy. Some part of him expected defiance, perhaps a second bolt. Instead, the youth sagged, crossbow clattering. He turned and ran, straight into Brienne's intercepting grasp. She held him by collar, expression carved granite. "Your Grace," she growled to Renly, half question, half offering. Stannis stepped forward. "The boy is mine. He stands accused of usurpation, kinslaying seeds, and treason." But Renly placed a hand upon Brienne's. "He is our nephew," he said softly, gaze flicking to the terror-struck youth. Let him live to confess before the realm. Stannis' jaw flexed. Confession without retribution is just another lie. Yet he saw dawning horror in bystanders' eyes, the spectacle of a king executing child kin. He measured the breath, conceded. Chain him in black cells. The realm will judge when smoke clears. Joffrey spat an epithet too crude for courtiers, earning a slap from a tired guard that left teeth speckling marble. Still he lived. Night had fallen by the time the Red Keep's inner gates creaked open from within, gold cloaks under Bywater's command having at last persuaded or slain the last pockets of resistance. Renly's men swept the corridors like water through old pipes, securing armories, clearing sept and cellar. Davos led a company to the dungeons, keys ringing, and found Lord Varys the Spider waiting beyond the black iron bars, plump hands folded. How quickly fortunes shift, the eunuch cooed. I have kept Lady Sansa Stark and Lord Eddard's bones safe from harm. Small courtesies for large futures. Davos ordered the cells opened. Sansa emerged pale as frost. Her murmured thanks barely carried past cracked lips. Farther in, they found prisoners taken by Joffrey's whims. Commoners for petty insult, merchants over tax scuffles. Each freed soul became sudden choir singing the newcomer's praises. In the throne room, the Iron Throne loomed, blades gleaming dull in torchlight. Stannis approached the steps but halted short of assent. Renly stood opposite, expression nothing like jest. Between them the throne reared, ancient dragon bones forged to terror and law alike. We have the city but not the realm, Renly said. Tywin marches. Robb Stark holds the north. Greyjoy sails black seas. Yet tonight we stand brothers. Let no throne divide us before dawn. Stannis' eyes lingered on the jagged seat, on oath, on destiny, on cost. A king's duty begins with realm secure, he said, voice rough. Until Tywin's banners lie broken, this throne may wait. A nod between them, uneasy, necessary. They turned away together, heavy cloaks rustling like wings of some dusk-black raven. Outside the windows, the city burned still in patches, but rain began to fall, first as mist, then as a steady curtain washing alley and palace roof alike. Steam hissed where wildfire smoldered. In Flea Bottom, mothers held children to the drizzle, mouths open to taste clean wetness. On Visenya's hill, Davos lifted his face skyward, letting soot streak free into rivulets, thinking of suns and seas and promises. Across the King's Road, past the trampled meadows and corpses cooling under rain-damp banners, scouts glimpsed the first golden lion pennon cresting a distant ridge. A tiny splash of color against storm-gray dawn. War, like dawn, cared little for crowns already won. And as Renly Baratheon and Stannis Baratheon prepared to greet their father's old rival in arms, the realm held its breath, waiting to see whether this alliance forged of salt and summer could weather the iron fury that marched upon King's Landing's smoking walls. Rain sheeted across the fields west of King's Landing, drumming a restless cadence upon canvas war tents and half-collapsed pavilions whose bright Lannister crimsons already bled into the mud. Dawn seeped in faltering shades, neither full light nor forgiving gloom, limning every lance tip with glassy droplets. Beneath the hastily raised command pavilion at the Lion's Teeth Ridge, Tywin Lannister stood over a map secured by daggers at each corner, eyes like chips of pale marble as he surveyed the city he had once saved from dragonfire. Now its walls shimmered with smoke and rain, and the crowned stags of Baratheon snapped defiantly wherever the wind slipped between towers. Ser Kevin hovered a respectful step back, cloak sodden yet shoulders squared. Advance elements report the mud gate lost, brother, he said. Gold cloaks loyal to the queen driven north toward the dragon pit. Our outriders twice skirmished Stormlander scouts. Light casualties. Tywin's gauntlet finger traced the river line where bridges arched like tendon over bone. They hold the docks, the hill, and the keep, he murmured, securing stores as they go. Stannis, ever the quartermaster. He flicked a glance at Kevin. And Renly? Parades through the market squares, Kevin answered, disgust lacing his tone. Feeds children, promises pardons. The small folk loosened tongues gladly. Tywin exhaled, steam wreathing the clipped gray of his beard. Then we starve them silent, seal every southern road, burn every mill between Bitterbridge and Duskendale. Outside, a trumpet keened, signal of returning scouts. Wet boots splattered mud as Sir Adam Marbrand ducked beneath the pavilion flap, face streaked with grime. "Lord Tywin," he panted. Supply lines from Highgarden snake up the Rosewood Road, column after column, grain, salted beef, casks of wine. Tarly knights guard their flanks. A slow nod. "Mace Tyrell cannot sit a siege without feasting," Tywin said. "Cut those lines." The brothers' alliance grows brittle when hunger rides their ranks. His knuckles whitened upon the map's edge. "Have the pyromancers reached us?" "They cross Blackwater by skiff come nightfall," Marbrand replied, "with enough wildfire to scour half the river mouth, if the gods favor calm." Tywin's lip curled. "I rely on no god's favor. See that they meet with Master Haleen only under guard. No cask uncorked without my warrant." Kevin cleared his throat. "Cersei remains in the city's west wing, under guard by whatever loyal men she retains. Our messenger claims she refuses rescue, believing herself safer behind walls." Tywin's eyes hardened. "My daughter mistakes gilded stone for strength. Leave her. This city will change banners again ere long. Better she observe humility while dragons fill her dreams." A distant thunder rolled, not from the sky but from siege engines along the Red Keep's outer curtain, where Stannis' masons now hoisted new catapults captured from the Guild of Smiths. Tywin looked northeast, the memory of Aerys' mad laughter flickering like a torch's last gasp. With curt motion he rolled the map, thrust it into Kevin's hands. "Readiness by nightfall. We move under cloud. Their sentries will think us storm shadows." Within King's Landing the rain had dwindled to mist that clung like a mourner's veil across the serpentine lanes. Renly Baratheon rode astride Moonrise along the Street of Sisters, his company, Rainbow Guard reduced by wounds yet unbowed, forming a prism of steel around him. At every cross street he dismounted to speak with Baker's guild masters and Septon elders, to pledge grain once the reach wagons returned. Children pressed dried flowers into the laced gaps of his armor. Widows kissed the hem of his emerald cloak and whispered prayers that smelled of sour wine and sorrow. Brienne paced at his side, helm tucked beneath one arm. She watched his ready smile and wondered whether simple kindness could be shield enough against blades yet to fall. At the Fountain of the Drunkard, Renly paused, knelt atop the weather-smoothed plinth, and spoke not in oratory but in earnest hush. "You've seen war hawk over our walls," he said, voice carrying just enough to reach the ragged semicircle of refugees. "But war need not prey upon the innocent. My brother and I shall mend this realm with fairness first, sword second." Applause swelled, timid yet real. Brienne's palm rested on the pommel of Oathkeeper, Renly's gift to her months past, though she still felt unworthy. She scanned frustrated rooftops for the glint of hidden arrowheads. Trust, she knew, drew blood as quick as dread. When they rode again toward the great September of Baelor, the bells above tolled midday, their echo wavering between jubilant and alarmed. A runner in patched violet livery intercepted them, breathless. "Lord Tyrell's couriers at the gate of the gods," he gasped. "Demand audience, urgent." Renly's brows arched. Mace chooses a storm to brandish fatherly concern. He turned to Brienne. "Escort them to the throne room. I'll finish rounds here." "Your Grace," she objected, but he pressed 2 fingers against her steel gauntlet wrist, a gesture softer than flesh. "You protect me best by minding the gate my enemies may slip through." Reluctant, she bowed and spurred away, cloak trailing blue through the fog. Davos Seaworth found Stannis upon the northern battlements of Maegor's Holdfast, where rain gutters emptied midnight ash in oily ropes. From that height the river gleamed pewter under veiled sun. Partially sunken wildfire barges still sent whirls of green smoke outward like ill tidings. "The city breathes easier," Davos said, approaching carefully. Wildfire stores seized at the Guildhall. No more blasts. Stannis did not look up. His gaze drilled beyond rooftops to the patchwork fields where Lannister camp smoke rose like thornbush against gray sky. "Tywin tests us by night," he said. "I smell him in the wind, horse sweat, forged steel." Davos followed the king's stare. "Our walls are high. Our men rested compared to his march. And yet hunger is the quieter foe." Stannis' tone bore a fatigue deeper than sleeplessness, one scraped raw by years of doubt and duty. Tyrell grain must soon reach the city, or desperation will widen cracks Renly cannot mend with smiles. Davos braved a step nearer. "Let me sail to Wendwater. I know coves smugglers still ply. We can fetch fish enough." "No," Stannis cut in. "I'll not have you risk the Blackwater tonight. Their pickets comb every shoal." He inhaled, rain seaming down his scarred cheek. "What news of Joffrey's imprisonment?" "In the black cells. Septon Bar visits. Speaks of repentance." Davos allowed himself a thin smile. "The boy throws soup bowls. He will stand trial," Stannis muttered. "Whatever the realm decides, no secret knives. Justice must be seen, not whispered." Footsteps clanged behind. Lady Shireen's voice, shy yet lucid. "Father, Maester Pylus says Lord Tywin's men fly new banners." Stannis turned, surprise gentling his stern lines. Shireen's cloak drenched her patched cheek, but she stood tall, hands clasped. Davos stepped aside, respectful. "New banners," Stannis echoed. "Ser Kevin's column bears a red stallion beside Lannister lion," she said. "Book says House Brax. They were last at Riverlands." Stannis absorbed this. Brax march with lions. They hold siegecraft, but their walls fell to Robb Stark. House cracked once may crack again. He rested a hand on her shoulder, an intimacy so rare Davos felt heat sting his eyes. "Thank you, sweet one. Return to your lessons." She curtsied, smile fleeting, and padded away along the parapet, wet shoes squeaking. Stannis watched until she vanished, then murmured, "She deserves a kingdom unfractured." Davos nodded. "And she will have one." He gestured to the distant ridgeline. "When Tywin tests us, he tests our unity. Renly's men respect you now. Hold council together tonight. Show them two stags share one heart." Stannis' eyes slid to Davos, equal parts brotherly and burdened. "One heart," he echoed, "but two crowns still gleam in their dreams." He spat rainwater. "I will speak with my brother. Pray Seven that words cut less deep than steel." Twilight crawled through the Sept's stained glass windows, painting shards of lemon and cerulean across the polished marble floor. The Tyrell envoys knelt before the Iron Throne. Ser Garland in quilted rose and gold, Lady Olenna's cousin Ser Desmond Grell, and a dozen retainers heavy with Highgarden perfume even after days of rain-soaked travel. Renly approached, wiping mud from his vambrace, and greeted them with warm clasp. They pressed parchments waxed with green griffin, food tallies, levy rosters, pledges from Tarly and Rowan. Yet among lines of tribute writ neat, a single clause drew his brow to knit. "Mace proposes marriage alliance with Dragonstone," Renly read, glancing towards Stannis who had joined them in the hall's echoing hush. "His daughter Marjorie to your grace of Storm's End." Stannis' gaze flicked from the script to Renly's open grin. "I am wed already to Lady Sellis." Olenna's cousin coughed delicately. "Highgarden understands Lady Sellis' devotions lie more with her god than courtly engagements." The hall chilled. Renly interposed. "My brother's marriage is binding, but House Tyrell might yet tie our futures through another thread. My own seat is unencumbered." Ser Garland smiled. "Lord Mace will be pleased. Our wagons wait at Bitterbridge. Only word needed to spur them upriver." Stannis studied his brother, suspicion coiled tight. "Do you barter nuptials for grain?" "Barter unity for survival," Renly answered softly. He turned to Garland. "Tell Highgarden we accept their stores. Speak nothing further of wedding lists until this siege breaks." Garland bowed, though disappointment shadowed his eyes. Stannis pivoted, cloak swishing like the sea's dark underside, and strode from the throne room. Renly watched him go, buoyant smile edging toward unease. Night thickened. Torches guttered low within Renly's pavilion perched on the outer ward. Rain had ceased, but thunder rolled far west like a beast clearing its throat. Loras Tyrell paced the rugs, nervous energy sparking off steel greaves. He shuns an alliance that might bind thorn and stag, Loras hissed. The North will not wait. Tywin will not pause. Does Lord Stannis mean to rule a graveyard? Renly sat at the campaign desk, quill poised above parchment yet ink pooling unspent. He means to rule. Full stop. You could rule, Loras pressed. Small folk love you. The reach stands ready. Renly's shoulders sagged. If I split now, the city tears down the middle and all our work turns ash. His eyes lifted to Loras's, soft with unspoken gratitude. We see Tywin beaten first. Then, fate may choose her crown. Leather curtain parted. Brienne ducked inside, breath steamed from brisk stride. My lords, scouts report Lannister siege lines form 2 miles west, lightless ranks behind hedgerows. They march ere dawn. Renly set quill aside. Then dawn will name a victor. He rose, clasping Brienne's arm. Surprise flashed across her solemn face. Ready the men. Rainbow Guard rides with me at first horn. We strike their flank before sun breaks mist. Brienne nodded. Your grace. When she departed, Loras approached. Ride far left, he pleaded. Let me take the point. Storm's End needs its king alive. Renly chuckled ruefully. And war needs its hope visible. He brushed a knuckle along Loras's cheek. I'll ride. You guard my rear. Loras swallowed argument. Rain-soaked wind fluttered the pavilion flap, extinguishing one candle. They stood facing one another in that dim hush, 2 young men wearing crowns invisible but felt like the pressure of storms. Finally, Renly turned back to the desk, replaced quill with dagger, and trimmed loose wax from his armor straps. Northwest of the city, Tywin's legions advanced beneath shrouded stars. No trumpets pierced the dark, only the muted thud of hoof on turf and the low murmur of officers repeating orders handed down like heirloom swords. Braziers atop long wagons glowed faint beneath tarpaulin, shielding light from enemy eyes yet warming crossbow strings stretched taut. In the vanguard rode Ser Gregor Clegane, helm cast in snarling hound visage, torch held low to avoid presenting beacon. He relished silent war, sound deafened prey. Behind him file upon file of Brax pikes kept step, points rocking like a field of metallic wheat. Tywin rode among household knights, dismissing offers of carriage. Rain had chilled but not frozen. The scent of damp turned earthen clods into clay that caked hooves. The Lord's thoughts moved colder still. He saw gaps in enemy lines as if drawn on parchment. The southern breach where Renly's mercy left the Rose Road lightly patrolled. The northern fish market whose defenders thinned hourly to escort bread trains. Break one link, chain unravels. At the Tumblestone Fork they slowed. Scouts returned bearing word that the Blackwater ford south of the Chalk Cliffs remained unguarded except by a watchtower whose garrison, Gold Cloaks or Stag, had fled earlier wildfire blasts. Tywin's decision was a fox's grin. He split 3,000 horse under Ser Adam to circle wide, cross the ford behind Drizzle, and strike the grain caravans before dawn. Then he pressed the main host east, aiming the bulk of his infantry at the old King's Road gate, newly Baratheon held. They will man walls lightly, trusting burnt gates to dissuade, he told Kevin. We give them noon illusions. At midnight we hammer, darkest hour before dawn. On the city walls candles flickered inside makeshift lanterns, their glow dull as dying stars. Stannis Baratheon joined his brother near the ramparts of the mud gate, each clad for battle. Stannis in steel-hammered plane, Renly in armor of forest emerald set with golden rivets. They regarded one another through helm slits, yet none spoke first. At last Stannis breathed out, mist pluming like embers. I have posted Karen archers along the south parapet. Your knights will need arrow gaps if their charge flounders. Renly inclined head. My Rainbow Guard thanks you. He scanned the dim plain beyond walls where shadows hinted at distant formations. Brother, This city's heart is fragile. We break or heal it today. Stannis' gauntlet flexed on the hilt of fury. Heal first, break what must in after. They clasped forearms, an acknowledgement forged by necessity, if not affection. Drums below rumbled to life. Hoofbeats echoed across cobbles as knights assembled in column. Blue of Tarth, silver of Estermont, red and gold of Brothian bastardy houses sworn this week by coin and conviction. When the gate hauled upward, chilly dawn wind flooded the tunnel like exhaled memory of the sea. Renly's Palomino sidestepped, eager. He steadied her with soft word. Stannis watched the first units trot beyond walls, banners bent above helms. He turned to Davos, who stood ready on foot. Signal galleys to blanket the shore with crossfire. No lion shall flank our left. Davos saluted. Rain sheen on his brow looked like polished cedar. He vanished down stairwell, cloak snapping. Renly lifted his visor once, to smile at Stannis, a curve both brave and rueful. Then spurs clanged and he thundered into the nascent gray, rainbow guard streaming behind like the afterglow of some fleeting miracle. Tywin's armies were closer than even Renly's scouts feared. As the rainbow guard crested the low ridge a mere half-mile west, a wall of pikes bristled into view, braziers flaring now to reveal red and gold standards rippling. Trumpets blared. The dawn exploded in clamor. Renly reined, heart trotting even as horse jittered. He gauged the distance, too short to wheel, too long to slow charge. Their momentum must strike before archers drank nerve. Ride them down, he roared. Loras's warhorn answered, shrill and fierce. Knights kicked heels. Destriers leapt. Rain-slick grass parted beneath 500 hooves thundering across sodden field. Ahead, Lannister front ranks knelt, shields locking. A second line raised spears, angled to catch sunlight. Behind them, bow strings thrummed. The first volley hissed. Armor rang. A Tyrell banner toppled as shaft pierced horse's throat, rider tumbling amid blood splash. But Rainbow Guard punched through. Ser Parman Crane smashed pikestaff aside, blade-cleaving man beneath. Ser Rebar Royce. Battle-axe carved gap. Renly's own sword flashed comet-bright. He leaned low, cutting a pike haft in twain. Momentum carried them deep into the red cloak files whose sudden fear stuttered their discipline. From the flanks, Stormlander cavalry poured, Ser Gaiard Morrigan leading raven-black chargers that slammed into Brack's auxiliaries attempting will formation. The field churned, banners twisting like wrenched sails in wind. Yet in the swirl of melee, Renly felt a shift, as if the battle's fabric tore to reveal a maw beyond. He jerked reins, scanning. To north, beyond hedgerow, a second cavalry column emerged, lions rampant on scarlet, glittering under rising sun. He glimpsed a monstrous figure astride Great Destrier, Ser Gregor Clegane. The hound's elder brother spurred forward, massive sword already wet. His wedge headed not for Stannis' infantry but straight for the Rainbow Corps where green and gold fluttered. Renly's pulse hammered. He swung Moonrise, signaling. Loras perceived, wheeled his own mount to intercept. But seconds stretched like taffy in war. Loras's flank had distance yet to cover. Clegane's charge smashed into Renly's left. Two knights snowed sparks before blades even bit. Armor crumpled like parchment under brute force. Renly turned, parried a red cloak spear, thrust free, shouted for Brienne. But her blue helm bobbed yards away, locked in duel with Brack's captain nearly her size. Then the mountain towered before him. Renly saw his own face mirrored in that black helm slit, eyes wide, fear and steel entwined. He raised shield. Impact crashed like falling keep. Would split, rim drove into forearm. Pain blazed white. Horse screamed, lurched sideways, nearly toppling. Crowd of bodies pressed. He slashed reflexively, tore chain mail, heard man die. Clegane reined to wheel again, blade dripping. Renly spat taste of iron from split lip, turned Moonrise hard left, forcing Palomino to leap over a corpse. Rain had ended but sweat now soaked him, sting in wounded arm. Sudden blue flew across his vision. Brienne, wild as gale, hammering her pommel to catch Clegane's helm base, driving him back a pace. She slipped between mountain and king, shield raised, sword poised two-hand. Renly gasped breath, but no respite. A red cloak thrust spear tip at his thigh. He parried, countered, drove steel through collarbone. Around him melee thickened as Lannister reserves swarmed, seeking royal prey. Loras broke through then, white horse streaked scarlet. His spear found a gap in Clegane's pauldron, sank a handspan. The mountain bellowed, backhanded shaft, snapping it like reed, but wound slowed him. Stannis' infantry, alerted by horn blasts, surged from the city's breached gate, phalanx bristling. They slammed into the Lannister right flank, shields overlapping like stone tide. Tywin's orderly lines wavered, then regained under Kevin's barked commands. In the vortex's center, Brienne and Clegane traded titanic blows. Sparks flew like swarm of angry bees. Twice her blade glanced off his plate, but third stroke cut across his thigh, spilling dark blood. He roared, swept sword broad. She ducked, riposte carving gauntlet from his hand. Pain stunned the giant. Loras lunged, planting second spear point through visor slit. The mountain stiffened, gurgled, knees buckled. He fell with shudder that rippled soil. Silence tremored through surrounding ranks, momentary hush amid chaos. It broke with an exultant cry from Stormlander throats. But victory's taste soured quick. Trumpets from Tywin's rear boomed two sharp notes. Banners dipped. Reserve infantry advanced, fresh, armored, flank-wide. Renly's knights, exhausted, pressed to meet them yet found momentum flagging. Stannis' shield wall held the opposite side but stretched thin. Across muddy flat, Tywin himself appeared, crimson cape fluttering. He surveyed the carnage, face a mask of calculating disdain. He raised gauntlet hand. Siege horns blared thrice. From behind brack spears rolled great wooden frames. Scorpions and ballistae driven by oxen. Crews scrambled, knocking yard-long bolts. They rotated toward the city wall where Stannis' archers thinned, arrows near spent. Renly wheeled, searching for brother, but could not spot Stannis amid helms. He turned to Loras, panting. "We cannot hold open field. We fall back. Draw them within arrow range of our walls." Loras nodded, blood freckling his pearl-white armor. "Signal the horns." But horns would not come soon enough. Tywin sensed their withdrawal. His cavalry surged, pressing. Knights of House Marbrand crashed into Stormlander rear, sowing panic. Brienne clove path to Renly's flank. "Ride, my king," she urged. "The gate lies there." She pointed saber east where city ramparts glimmered. Renly hesitated, scanning men falling, wounded blocking hooves. Another wave of bolts whistled overhead, embedding into wall battlements. Stones cracked. One arch collapsed, burying two archers. He looked back to Brienne. "We make good retreat or we die." He nodded. "Sound horns. Call each banner to reform." Brienne bellowed orders. Loras echoed. Slowly the rainbow standard and crowned stag pivoted, units folding with discipline hammered in tourneys but tested now by terror. They withdrew step by step, shields half-turning to intercept lances. Tywin's infantry pursued but not recklessly. His archers advanced to kneel, fire, reload. Bolts struck fleeing horses. Renly felt the Palomino stumble. He vaulted free before she collapsed, landed hard on knee, pain shooting. Brienne dismounted, hauled him upright. Together they limped, swords ready. City wall mere 100 paces, yet might have been leagues. Stannis' reserve archers unleashed at last, peppering Lannister vanguard. But Tywin's ballistae answered, bolts punching into gate timbers. Already weakened by prior siege, one bolt tore through, shattering hinge.
Gate groa ned.
On parapet above, Davos waved lantern, signaling galleys to edge closer, catapults to hurl stone at rear of Tywin's mass. Riverfront answered, boulders lofted, crashing into Marbrand ranks. Tywin's horses reared, lines jostled. Again tide turned, but fragile as eggshell. Rain returned, fine pins of silver, slicking everything to treachery. Renly slipped. Brienne hoisted him across shoulders, carrying his shield. A stray bolt thudded into her spalder. She grunted, staggered. Still she marched. They crossed threshold as gate guards slammed improvised iron beam across splintered jam. Bolts rammed wood but hold held for now. Inside, Stannis directed wounded to triage, voice hoarse. He saw Renly, limping, Brienne bloodied, and his eyes flashed relief that disguised itself as annoyance. "You rode too far," he growled. Renly coughed laughter.
I rodde till Lannisters blockhed synligt.
Stannis glanced at the gate timbers bowing inward. "Sun returns with blood." He turned to Davos. "We need dragonstone powder. Pack the breach. If they push, light fuse." Davos nodded, sprinted. Thunder rumbled. Lightning forked in bruised heavens, whitewashing battlements for heartbeat. Revealed beyond walls. Tywin reorganizing ranks under banners sagging in the downpour. A beast wounded but not slain. Renly clasped Stannis' shoulder, breath ragged. "Brother, we must combine our hosts within walls. No more sallies." Stannis met his gaze. "Agreed, but Tywin won't siege long. He will storm before your Tyrell wagons unhorse his logistics." He inhaled. "We hold one more day." Renly straightened though pain knifed his arm. "Then let tomorrow end this." They parted, each swallowed by duties. A king to wounded, a king to walls. Yet for the first time their paths seemed not diverging but convergent. Converging like two tributaries forced into one torrent when mountain snows thaw. In the Lion camp that night, Tywin surveyed casualty ledgers, words blurred where ink bled from rain. He dismissed leeches and captains, stood alone with a single lamp bright enough to rival a star. He paced, mind-tallying grain stores shrinking fast, and men's morale shrinking faster. Kevin entered quietly. Archers mutter of wildfire ghosts along river. Scouts claim reach wagons near Bitterbridge escaped our raiders. Tarly's columns covered retreat with pike supply remains open. Tywin stilled. He considered options like chessmen shaped in obsidian. One move left. Break city now or retreat to gather allies. Retreat smelled like weakness. Baratheon brothers would trumpet Lion's flight to every corner. Allies might still come. Fry from Twins, Hightower from Old Town, but months would bleed. He lifted gaze to Kevin. "We assault at dawn," he said. "All ranks. Hold nothing." Kevin swallowed. "Losses will be grave." Tywin's stare could freeze wildfire. Graver still should the stag seat itself upon the Iron Throne. He turned to maps scrawled with new breaches, new lethal angles. "See that every pot of wildfire is slung. We light their walls even if city burns again." Cool pre-dawn hush. Clouds parted enough to reveal a sliver moon scything away gloom. In the Red Keep's small council chamber, now war room, Davos, Brienne, Ser Courtenay, Maester Pylus, and Ser Jacelyn assembled around flickering candle lusters. Stannis entered last, armor-strapped, eyes reddened. "Tywin strikes at dawn," he said without flourish. "He means to breach 3 gates at once." Sow confusion. Courtenay tapped map. "Their siege towers here, and western flank. Our archers can burn too, maybe. We must choose which gate we let them breach," Davos said softly. "Fight them inside where cavalry useless." Brienne nodded. "Narrow streets favor our pikes." Stannis considered. "The gate of the gods," he decided. "Widest approach, nearest to Sept. Stone streets hold fire poorly. We will draw them into labyrinth of shrines and close trap." He looked at Brienne. "You and your blue guard hold the eastern postern. If lions break through secondary breach, cut them off." She bowed. "It will be done." Blood seeped through patched shoulder where bolt head still lodged beneath plate. But she did not flinch. Stannis turned to Davos. "Fleet will torch any bridge Tywin attempts across river south. Your son commands Black Betha's sister ships. Devon stands ready." Davos's voice wavered with paternal worry yet firm resolve. Stannis set both hands on table. "Then we wait for first light." He closed eyes a breath, opened them steel. "And trust the gods or God or plain grit." that brothers forged in this fire do not crumble. None spoke. Candlewick sizzled. Somewhere in the keep below, a child began to cry, then fell silent as nurse soothed. The world seemed to inhale, lungs straining against ribcage forged of banners and fate. As they dispersed, Davos lingered. "My lord," he murmured. "Should dawn turn ill, find your daughter, take her to the sea gate. A smuggler's trick or two still left." Stannis shook his head slowly. "If walls fall, so does the crown. I will not flee." Davos pressed low. "Then let Shireen. She will not flee her father." Stannis answered, voice gentler than his norm, which only deepened ache. "She carries my honor." Davos bowed and stepped into corridors chill, heart-hammering drums no bard would praise. First faint blue leaked horizon when Tywin's horns blared. Siege towers creaked forward, torchlight glinting on wet oak.
Ballista cruz cranked, coursant.
Hills rolled with roar of 20,000 throats as lions descended. On city walls, Stormland archers knocked arrows tipped in oil, flame at ready. Catapults primed with stones salvaged from collapsed manses. Renly rode the parapet, calling encouragement, his injured arm strapped but sword hand free. Children perched on high roofs, clutching makeshift Baratheon pennants of cloth. They waved, defiant and terrified. At the gate of the gods, Stannis waited in shadowed arch, ranks of pikemen behind him. Torches lined tunnel, their smoke-curling shapes that writhed like restless ancestors. When first boulder struck outer gate, dust showered, wood groaned. Second strike cracked support beam, iron bindings screamed. Stannis lifted sword, its tip catching torch glow. "Hold!" He breathed more to himself than men. Crack deepened. Beam split. A sliver of dawn-cold air knifed through hinge. He saw silhouettes beyond, lions bracing ram, archers knocking. "Hold!" Third blow. Gate exploded inward in splinters and smoke. Tywin's vanguard surged, shields high, blades ready to carve. "Now," Stannis hissed. Pitch-soaked hables ignited, flung from hidden ledges, crashed among first wave. Flame guttered blue-orange, licking armor. Arrows poured from murder holes, black fletch sprouting in gaps of mail. Instead of pushing through, lions balked, momentum shattered by narrow kill zone. Stannis stepped aside as pikemen advanced 6 abreast, walling tunnel with bristle of steel. They thrust into throng pinned within burning debris. Screams compounded thunder. Tywin's captains shouted retreat, but crush clogged exit. More pressed in from behind. Above, Renly signaled archers on outer battlements to target retreating lines. Crossfire scythed. Siege tower wheels groaned. One caught pitch arrow, flames licking axle. Crew abandoned as structure slowed to crawl, then halted. Yet Tywin countered. Trumpets sounded shift. Reserve troops veered south to Lesser Sallygate, where only handful of gold cloaks defended. Ram met gate of aged oak, shattered. Lions flooded through, screaming vengeance. Brienne awaited, blue cloak rent by earlier wound, flanked by Tarth shields. In snaking alleyways, they cut horsemen from mounts, forced infantry into bottleneck between 2 slumping granary walls. When firepots crashed atop pursuing ranks, alley became forge. Smoke roared skyward. At the main break, Stannis' pikes pushed corpses outward until blood slicked the stone for yards. Suddenly horns outside sounded withdrawal. A cheer rose from defenders. But Stannis felt chill. Tywin would not yield so soon. His dread proved true when explosion shattered dawn. Ballista bolt driven by counterweight slammed high onto wall walk, releasing clay sphere of wildfire. It burst. Green inferno climbed upward, kissing rampart edge. 3 archers vanished in flare. Wind caught flames, hurled them inward toward houses. Renly raced along parapet, shouting for sand barrels. Yet wind shifted again, blessedly south. Flames wavered, devoured only empty tower stump before smothering in stone. Bells tolled. Victory seemed within grasp. Across field, Lannister banners drifted backward. Thunder of hooves receded. Tywin knew walls would hold this day. Retreat rode with dignity, rearguard shields raised high. Upon ramparts, exhausted cheers erupted. Renly slumped against Merlin, panting. Brienne supported him. Stannis climbed battered stair, removing helm to breathe rain-fresh air. They met where arrow-littered walkway commanded view of field now carpeted with fallen red cloaks. Renly managed weary grin. Doors stand. Stannis surveyed charred gate, wagon heaps of dead. Doors stand. He glanced to Tywin's receding column. But war beyond yet wags tail. Footsteps approached. Tyrion, mud-spattered but unbound, escorted by Jacelyn. He bowed. "My lord kings, Lord Tywin requests parley. He will withdraw fully if you grant safe escort for Queen Cersei and Prince Tommen to Casterly Rock, unharmed." Renly exhaled. "And in return?" Tyrion spread hands. "He pledges to call banners back, to accept verdict of Great Council regarding rightful throne." Stannis stared long, then spoke. "And if Council choose Lion's Cub? Then houses choose war anew," Tyrion said. "But Lion loses chance to retreat with dignity." Renly glanced to Stannis. "Brother, our men are spent. Grain low yet. A week's respite gains us strength." Stannis's eyes narrowed, memories of Blackwater blood echoing. But he saw Shireen's shy smile, remembered city's children waving tatters of cloth. "Very well," he murmured. "Queen and cub may depart. Council will convene in moon's time at Old Town." Tyrion bowed deeply, relief shadowing cunning. "I shall convey terms." As he left, Renly sagged against parapet. "We have one breath, not peace." Stannis sheathed sword. But breath becomes life if wisely spent. He stared at field where smoke dissipated like fading nightmare. "We mend walls, feed mouths, and show realm what Baratheon justice looks like." Renly chuckled, winced at pain. "Not a crown yet, but a kingdom's heart perhaps." Stannis allowed thin smile. "One heart," he echoed. Horizon brightened, rain clouds retreating. Between them city bells chimed, not alarm but miracle of mere survival. Beneath that sound, in muddy alleys, small folk lit candles for lost kin and whispered thanks to two stubborn brothers who had at last stood together. And across the breaking sky, the first true sunlight since war's beginning spilled over cracked tiles and broken spears, gilding both crowned stags upon the walls in a single wash of gold promise, fragile and fierce, that someday no lion, dragon, or dire wolf would again set fire to the realm these men had bled to save.